Okay, hi everybody. Welcome to the HackerNoon podcast. I'm your host, Natasha, and I'm very excited to be here today talking to Zoe Chew. She is a six-time Noonie nominee, a prolific maker and writer. And yeah, thank you so much for being with us today, Zoe. It's great to have you here.
Thank you, Natasha, for having me on the show today. I really appreciate this opportunity and looking forward to chat about all things product, tech, and startups.
Absolutely. Let's dive right in. So, among many other things, you are a product builder. I think we should kick it off with an interesting transition story from your career, because as much as you are synonymous with product building today, you started in marketing. Can you tell us how and why you made the transition over to the product side?
Yeah, sure. So I started my career as a solo founder, as a digital marketer back in 2016. And so I was doing things like digital marketing and marketing training for small, medium-sized business and local companies, and also like paid ads and content marketing strategy for about like 2 years. And then I decided that I wanted to like transition to tech and product because I was inspired by the innovation aspects of all this like technology companies building things and making product better to improve other people's lives. So I decided to like transition my career from marketing for non-tech companies to helping tech companies with like product communication, user base discovery, and also like community development strategy.
And how did you actually, in practical terms, make that transition? I mean, it's quite sort of, I suppose, at times overlapping skill sets, but still quite different. How did you prepare to change careers in that way?
Yeah, so in the beginning, I realized that I didn't have any tech skills to be able to like prepare me for that transition. So I decided to like learn product building skills by hacking some tools that I know at the time, things like WordPress, Airtable, and Card, and then start to build simple things like personal website, job board, and also like a directory listing website for myself, and just wanted to get into the thinking process in like building and launching product, and also like using design tools and no code tools. I eventually did like picked up learning how to code in Python, Django, because I realized that being able to build products if you know how to code, that just like uh, empower you with more skill set to like develop any kinds of product that you want.
Exactly. And you do develop all kinds of products. It's extremely impressive. I wanted to talk about one of your most recent projects, the personal FAQ directory. Um, I found it interesting because well, you seem to have built it for much the same reason I wanted to have you on this podcast. And that's because a lot of people are reaching out to you to discover how it is that you think and how you approach product building, because you are churning out products at a rate that is really quite impressive. So I wanted to ask you about that process from ideation to solution. And maybe you could take us through an example of one of the products you've recently built and how you approach that.
Yeah, sure. So most of the product ideas that I came up with are related to my personal needs, which is the problem that I want to solve for myself. Something that's related to like productivity problem. How can I make habit tracking more effective, easier, more accessible? And then how can I make tracking my portfolio, all this workflow, easier and faster? So all these ideas came up because I want to solve my personal problems and needs. So the way that I start, the way that I, plan all this product building is I start by looking at my own, problems and use cases. And then I map out exactly what are possible solutions for this kind of problem that I'm facing. And then I come up with like a couple of ideas that I, toy around. And then I look up for some UI inspirations, just sort of like plan the app design structure and flow before I get into the actual building. So during the actual building, I will use tools like no-code tools, and also if it requires some kind of development, then I will use some development framework to build it. But I'm not a professional in coding development, so that's going to take a bit long time. But I'm willing to spend more time to like figure things out. Yeah.
Right. And that is exactly your approach, right? Is that you build micro tools to solve personal challenges or answer questions that you come across in your own daily life. I mean, examples of this are iLazy to Read, which delivers 5-line summaries of online articles and was #1 on Product Hunt and featured on Lifehacker. As you've mentioned, you've developed a habit tracker, a SaaS subscription manager, personal finance tracker, a food delivery startup MVP, and many more. And I just think that it's quite remarkable to want to build so many products. And is there a particular reason why you think building and releasing fast and in high quantity is a better approach than maybe taking a little bit more time in between releases, or just another approach to product building? Why is it that you build so many products?
Yeah, thanks for asking that. I think back in 2019, when I decided to make the transition from like marketing to product, I created a system for myself to actually give myself pressure to like build and launch consistently, and that's where the idea came up, like building and launching in 24 hours. And I wanted to like document my process in like from idea to problem to solutions, and eventually building a functional product within 24 hours to solve my own problems. And then I think that's the reason why I do that is because it creates a system for me to be like disciplined in like releasing products. And so I don't have the time to like overthink whether my idea is good enough to release to the public. The goal is like just to build it and launch it and ship it. So that's the only true North Star in all these like personal product building projects and exercises. Yeah, it also builds my confidence in like releasing products, because I think the more you do it, the more it feels like natural to you without having to worry about what others people think about a product idea. You just have to build it and put your skill to test and release to the public.
You mentioned systems there, and I think that's a big sort of circling back into people really want to understand how you think. Are there any go-to mental models or frameworks or first principles that you apply to your decision making or your problem solving in daily life, like your mottos for living?
Yeah, sure. I think the way I think about like problem solving and also like creating system for myself for like day-to-day operations, it's like I keep it simple. So one of the philosophy that I come up with is like build and launch in 24 hours. Anything that you can get done and ship it within 24 hours, you do that. If it's gonna take longer, then you just like expand the timeline until you're able to like hit that goal. So I think having this thinking allows you to like stick to your goal, stay on course until you actually like reach the destination and not giving up, halfway through the journey.
Right. And as they say, what is it? The Pareto? No, it's not the Pareto principle. It's called something else. The paradox of when you give yourself too much time to do something, it actually expands, right? So the amount of time allotted. So the 24-hour principle is a good one. Would it be fair to say that you run your life much like you run product launches?
That's a good question. I for other like personal projects like like creativity or personal health, I don't rush things. So only for certain things that I feel like I will like potentially procrastinate, then I will set a deadline for like 24 hours. For other things like family,
Yeah,
friends,
sure.
conversation, know, um, meeting new people, I don't rush the conversation, like, to keep everything short. But yeah, only for certain things that I feel I don't want to procrastinate, then I would put a deadline, like, that 24 hours I have to get it done.
Right. And you've given yourself some really impressive goals for this year, and your personal website has in fact not only listed the goals, but you've also got a live progress tracker, which you share with the world with regards to what you want to achieve this year. And I think that's such an interesting choice. Can you tell us about the philosophy behind publishing and live tracking your personal goals?
Yeah, sure. So I started sharing my personal goals in like 2019. And then the reason why I do that, because I realize I'm a solo founder. So when you're a solo founder, you don't really have like coworkers to talk to, or have people around you to like, motivate you to like complete, some of these goals in your life. So I realized one of the way for me to like create a system to keep myself accountable is to document my progress, and also like share my goals publicly, so that I have that, public pressure to actually take actions and execute towards that. And then another benefit is that I get to like reflect on how I did when I, uh, go back to my website and reflect on my progress, and how far do I still need to do in order to achieve that target.
Makes sense. And staying with your personal websites and your approach to personal branding and marketing, as you mentioned, you are a solo founder, you're a consultant, you're a writer, speaker, maker, builder. How is it that you've managed to package, or how is it that you've approached packaging your services and what you offer the world into such a nice, amazingly, really, I think your personal website is the best I've ever seen. And I'd just like to understand your approach to marketing yourself in this world of independent consulting.
Yeah, sure. And so initially when I started this like personal website, my goal is to like document my personal process and also keep myself accountable in like building and launching products. In terms of like personal marketing and personal branding, it's funny that like in the beginning, I didn't think in terms of like personal branding strategy, because all this thing that I do is for myself to, to make sure that I actually like take actions and execute. And so I think in terms of personal branding, the way that I approach personal branding is that I break it down to three levels. The first one is I define my identity, which is what do I want to be recognized. So in this case, it's like I wanted to be a product builder in tech and design specifically. And then the second level is like I talk about why do I do it. So the reason why I want to learn like product building is because I want to turn my product skills into like being able to like build MVPs and validate startup ideas and find product market fit, and eventually find being able to like take an idea to technology companies in the future. So, and then the third level that I would share about personal marketing is that I make sure that I back up my words with action. So things that I publish on my personal goals is one way for me to like back up my words with action. So things like how many products I plan to build, how many blog posts, and how many networking meetups, calls that I want to achieve this year. So in a summary, I think personal branding is a lot like sharing your personal stories and personal experiences, and also being authentic about who you are and what values you can bring to the world. I think that's there are many ways to build a brand, but if you're not the kind of people who can do like live stream every day to build your brand, if you're an introvert, especially you're working in tech, then I think probably you can approach with like the personal documentation, method, and also like personal sharing, experiences and so on.
That makes a lot of sense. I think with marketing today, and I think personal marketing in particular, there's definitely been a move to a more authentic portrayal of yourself. I think even on Instagram, the least sort of authentic channel, as you say, you're seeing a lot more going live. You're seeing a lot more being really present and really authentic in the public space. And that's, I think, why the personal goals publishing is such a good idea. For people who are stuck right now before the ideation and solution process, but who have a similar desire of being, seen as a maker or a solution driver in technology. How would you advise that they start? What would be your number one step for somebody who's kind of wanting to step out there into a career in product, but isn't quite sure where to start?
Sure. I think a lot of people can start from, paying attention to their daily lives and actually look into, some of these like small details in their life that they feel like they want to improve. For example, you want to get better at organizing your tasks or your goals, things like you want to get better at, tracking your mood or, understanding your emotions better. So all these like small little like insights and details, start pay attention. And then from there, you can like probably think of ways to like make this process and flow, a lot better and easier and more accessible. I think these are some of the like, thinking process that I always go through when I want to start creating a new product or come up with a new idea. I always look at my personal experience. I always look at my personal, daily life, things I want to improve to make it easier for me because the easier it gets, the happier I get. Everything is like, very organized. I like things when they are, at the right place. Yeah.
And for the next stage, once you've sort of taken a look around your own personal life, and kind of identified the problems that you want to solve and the solutions that you build, and now you've started building it, you kind of are out there on your own, as you discussed. Especially for solo founders, it can be much like remote work, I suppose, staring into the abyss on your own. How do you start to form networks? How do you start to reach out to like-minded communities and build yourself a community around your product or solution?
Yeah. One of my favorite activities is actually networking with product people on the internet, on LinkedIn, on like Twitter. So one of the things that I do is like content marketing. I read a lot about like product building, fast prototyping process, and I wanted to like share my stories with people that resonate with me, which are like product people and product managers and founders and also like tech makers. And it's interesting, like by doing like content marketing, I get to meet a lot of like-minded people who reach out to me on DM and saying that you want to like hop on the call, and then we start just talking all things like products and tech and startups, like what we're doing right now. And then I think also like sometimes I do like reach out proactively on LinkedIn or on Twitter, and just to have like interesting conversation with people that I feel like we can share and exchange ideas and values around the topic of product building and also like startups and entrepreneurship. And so yeah, so the way that I do like networking is through like content marketing, product building, and also like actively creating conversation on social media. Yeah.
I think that's an important point. A lot of people want to be, career influencers or win VC Twitter or whatever, but they're not intentional about starting those conversations and creating content to start those conversations. I think that's a really interesting point about content marketing as still the ultimate way to establish credibility and thought leadership in any kind of space. I mean, shameless plug for HackerNoon, it's always a good idea to publish your work. And I think I read somewhere this morning you talked about how your writing process is very much just writing about your process of building, and people forget that. I often have moments of, oh, I googled something today, that should be about, I should write a blog post about that. Is that a fair description of how you approach writing, and what advice would you give to people who want to make writing a part of their daily routines?
Yeah, I think like initially I had the idea of like writing, you know, approach content marketing in a way that is that isn't like following the rules of like content marketing, because people say you have to do like keyword research, you have to do content research, and then you only write things that it's trendy, and not actually like focusing on what you feel like writing. So for me, the approach for my content marketing, it's just sharing my personal stories and also documenting my process and journey. And I feel like by sharing this process, I can help other people who are stuck at the moment in building products to actually gain some insights on how others have done it, and they can actually like replicate it. So that's my philosophy in like approaching content marketing. So I don't really look at SEO, keyword research. I don't look at the hottest content topics in order to write a great piece of content. As long as I feel like this piece of content is like related to my personal experience, and I feel like it can add values to the readers to help them get unstuck and improve their thinking process and be able to like build things with ease, and being able to launch it quickly. And I think that's already I've done my job.
Right. Which blog post has been your most successful to date?
Yeah, I think it's a habit tracking post. I get a lot of DMs from that post, and also like a lot of views and traffic for that post as well, on both on HackerNoon, on Medium and Substack and other channels. Yeah, so habit tracking is the most successful post so far.
Why do you think that is? What is our global obsession with habits?
I think habit is like a big part of our daily life, because people like always try to figure out how to be productive, how to be simplify their life, and be more organized with their work life and also like personal life. So I think it gets interesting when you share a process and like how you approach like tracking habit in a way that's so accessible, that's so easy, like without buying all these like apps and tools that try to like make yourself more productive, but in the end like, you're not like using it after like the first like 2-3 weeks. So yeah, as long as you can keep things simple, I think that's a great values in it.
Yeah, it is a great principle. The simplest solution is often the best. Is there another example of one of the products that you've built where simpler was better in the end?
Yeah, I think it's the finance tracker. So like tracking finance, like doing all the budgeting, and also like knowing how much is your expenses and like income per month. Yeah, so that's one of the like Notion prototype that I built. I just want to make my finance tracking more organized without having to go through all the apps and tools, and like spending money on all these tools that I don't really use it at the end of like after a few weeks. So yeah.
And all of these, with the tracker, for example, you mentioned the habit tracker being the most successful blog post, and you've also mentioned that you launched these products in 24 hours. Does the building and launching, is that both included in the 24-hour cycle? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. I thought it was just a launch sort of process. Wow. So can you run us through that? How exactly do you build and launch a product in 24 hours with great success in some cases?
Yeah, for example, like the meal app, the food ordering app that I built previously. So I actually got the idea from Blue Apron and also HelloFresh. So I don't start an idea from scratch. And then there are already some UI and UX inspiration that I can find on all these curated websites. So I don't really start the design from scratch. So with that said, I don't have to waste a lot of time, thinking, planning the design, prototype the UI for this kind of app. I already have somewhere that I can take ideas and remix ideas from. So that saves a lot of time. The only thing that I think, how do you like think fast in like, planning ideas to problem solution in a way that you can like execute quickly is your mental model, and also like a habit when you're approaching building product. I guess like over time, the more you build products, the more you recognize some kinds of patterns, like where you will, like overuse your time in building and launching. For example, it's like adding unnecessary product features. So if the way that you think about product building is like, I'm going to add as much features as possible, then you're going to waste a lot of time executing that. So I think like initially what are important or essentials for like initial products they want to ship as an MVP is to think in terms of what are initial like values and offering that can help users to accomplish a task or solve their problems or improve their lives, then do that. And then once you like, if you decide to take this idea to like become a startup or company, then you will probably value some other like important features or important offers and values. So I think in summary, like this is my approach in like building quickly to become aware of what exactly are the areas that you can reduce your time, so you don't look into it that much, and then you spend more time into like eliminating, just removing features and just focusing on what needs to get done. Yeah.
Really stripping down to the bare essentials. So that, as you said, covers the product building side. Let's talk about the go-to-market side and how you launch and get the word out. What's your sort of blueprint or pattern or system for that?
Yeah, so I usually tweet on Twitter. Twitter is my main marketing channel so far, and also on the Medium and HackerNoon, and also on LinkedIn. I don't do a lot of like status or like social posts consistently. So the way that I approach in like marketing and launching, it's really just one piece of blog post and a newsletter, which is same content, and also like a tweet. And yeah, that's just keep everything simple. As long as you add values to whatever they're doing, I think people resonate with it, and then they will share it for you. Yeah, so focus on creating great content, valuable products, that can help people to like, spark some idea to help them to achieve their product process better. I think that's the key part of what I believe in. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's what you do in your blog posts. I mean, the recent one about the personal FAQ directory, which is just such a good response to getting a lot of questions on Twitter or LinkedIn about your process and your approach. To house all of that in one space. First of all, well done for, really scaling the process of education for people who are trying to DIY a tech career or a product career right now. It's a really great use of time. And I think if you have that approach to teaching and writing and speaking, which you also do, it really speaks to the way that you have managed to create everything in a replicable way. So, if you look at the most recent blog post about the personal FAQ directory, you've got phase one seems to be ideation and solution. Then you've got the actual building. You discover that you list your toolkit there. You can see very much from your work how it's all like replicable and systematized, and I think that's really a good approach to life. And is that the same approach, by the way, that has allowed you to read 93 books in the last year? I mean, how have you done that in between building all of these products and working on your business?
So 93 books, by the way, is it's achieved in like 3 years. So it's not in the 1 year. So that's like about 30 to 40 books per year.
Right.
Yeah. So the way that I approach reading is like being concentrate for 30 minutes to like an hour every morning, and then really you don't don't wander your mind when you're reading, because I realize what makes reading slow is that when you're reading, you're trying to think about something else. You think about my work, my social media notifications, and thinking about what I want to do next, and think about what happened last night. So the more you wander, the slower your reading process is, and you're not as concentrate, on focusing on reading and getting it, the knowledge from the book. So yeah, just simple trick: focus, concentrate, and for like 30 minutes to like an hour every day. But this year I start to shift my reading to doing lots of networking, hopping on calls, and trying to meet more interesting people as possible. So I reduced my reading goals from like 40 books per year to like 25 per year. And I think that's a great shift, and that's a great improvement because the more I meet people and learn from the experience, it's the same as like learning knowledge from books, because I learn from someone who have done it before, and it's the same as getting knowledge from reading. Yeah.
Right. I like how a lot of your process or mental model seems to be about a process of elimination, removing things that make you slow, removing distractions. As you speak about now, Ling, our CEO, is actually heavily recommending a book called Resisting the Attention Economy. Have you read that?
I haven't read that, but I think that title sounds so interesting, and anything that has to do with simplifying my workflow and process, I definitely want to look into it.
Exactly. Yeah, the same as our developer Storm is also a complete efficiency nut. He loves anything to simplify a process and yeah, efficiency. I think on the note of resisting the attention economy, you mentioned social media. That is a big place that a lot of us are falling down at the moment, particularly now when the world is so crazy. Do you have any personal strategies for managing to avoid distractions and cut out, is it a case of in the early morning you just don't allow it? Do you allow lots of times? What's your strategy? I know I struggle.
Yeah, sure. So I have this like daily metrics that I use. It's called like on track. So being on track means that I plan out like 3 big goals that I want to get done for today before lunchtime. Uh, until I get to that point to like check off the boxes of like on track, I am not allowed to use social media. So
Good.
that yeah, that eliminates my distractions to like spend a lot more time on like social media. I think like you need to have the balance to like building and doing the marketing and like engaging on the conversation. So for me, social media is a lot of distractions because there are always like cool, interesting products out there that that you feel like you want to check it out and try it out. So I think having this rule for myself, I set like a deadline that you have to accomplish 3 tasks by lunch, then you're basically on track before you can move on to doing some other things, which is like social media or some fun stuff. Yeah.
Nice. Impressively disciplined. I think if I tried that rule, I don't know that I would stick to it myself. This is the problem. You've got to really be. Maybe if I got one of those limitation apps on my phone, it would be a good idea.
I
So
look at like
I wanted to talk about your 6-time Noonie nominations. You have been nominated in many categories: app and product development, product management, product design, mobile app development, I think, is another category that you've been nominated in. These contributor awards, to give you some context, were based on the reading time created, which is the North Star metric for HackerNoon. So we got a robot to figure out who's contributed the most reading time in various of our top tag categories. And obviously you have contributed a lot in those various categories. Would you like to take this opportunity to share with people your experience of writing for HackerNoon and why they should vote for you in the Noonies?
Yeah, so I think writing on HackerNoon has been an amazing experience for me personally, because I get to meet a lot of amazing product people who are, passionate about building products and also like launching, apps and, startups that improve other people's life. So I think it's amazing experience to be able to be part of the tech community on HackerNoon. And so yeah, I really enjoyed the experience, and I hope more people will be able to like look into like platform like HackerNoon to be able to like contribute and share, because it's such a great community where people are sharing the same journey and experiences, and also like the career path where they want to like get into product and tech. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think with the Noonies, our intention earlier when we were coming up with taglines, it was like, the only awards you really don't have to be an influencer or have 50,000 followers on Twitter to win. And the whole point is kind of just to amplify the voices of people in the community and get them some recognition for the good work that's being done in tech this year. Have you, is there anybody that you want to give a shout out to, people that who are building products you're excited about, or fellow solo founders who are making moves in your industry or in the space that you're in?
I think that's a long list of people that I need to like come up with and do a shout out in one shot on on a blog post on social media sometime. There are a
Right.
lot of people doing stuff, and on Twitter and also on within my network. I definitely have a long list of people that I can think of. Yeah, I can cover a couple people now, but definitely wanted to give a shout out when there's an opportunity where I can share a little bit more. Yeah.
Great. Do you have a mentor? Is it something that you prioritize in a formal sense of the word?
Yeah, so right now I don't really have like a mentor that I ask advice for for like building my startup or my journey. I think is I look into like my personal awareness. I pay a lot of attention in self-awareness as my so-called like mentor, because I think there's a lot of insights when we start to pay attention on self-awareness. You can understand yourself better, and then you know what is the right thing to do, what's the right thing to like prioritize for your career path. But I think like having a mentor, it's important to help you succeed. So the way that I approach my mentorship is more like conversation, networking, and friendship, more than like a dedicated mentor that I like frequently have conversation to ask advice for.
Yeah. That's really interesting. The first part of your answer on self-awareness, I'm wondering, is there any specific self-awareness practices that you do daily that you can share, or how do you approach that?
Yeah, sure. So I think like journaling is important. Like my approach to like journaling is also like simplified version. So the way that I start my day is to look at what are the problems that I think, areas that I think is like I want to improve, I want to face. Are there any like blockers that I think is potentially like limiting myself to, go further. So a lot of, things that I identify are related to like mindset and also like beliefs and, um, like your thinking models about certain things. So it's not about, your habits, things that you do externally. So yeah, self-awareness is like being able to understand what is important for you right now, and what do you feel like doing right now, and do you have the resources and attention to like invest all this like your effort into like making things happen. So all these like kind of questions I run through every day to like understand myself better, and also become better at doing the right things for the right time.
Great. I think that's really good advice. I also am a big fan of journaling. I'm a big believer in the only self-help book you really need is a journal.
Oh yeah.
What has been your favorite book that you have read so far this year?
This year, I think it's Big Magic, a book about creativity that I'm currently rereading right now. So the book says a lot about how you approach creativity. So why some of the most successful projects and product idea or book idea come from your the inspiring moment that strike you, and then how can you access all this like creativity and inspiration moment. So I think this has a lot to do with like product building, because when you are creating product, it's related to like how you approach creativity, how you access inspiration. And yeah, I like this book a lot because it helps me to like understand how creativity occurs, and how can you use that power to add values to content marketing and product building and communication and yeah, everything you do in your life.
That's Elizabeth Gilbert, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I've been wanting to read that. Thanks for the recommendation. It sounds, I didn't, I wouldn't have considered it a book about product building, but you're so right. That's how you access creativity and inspiration is a massive part of that. Good book recommendation. And music, what's your favorite coding music? I know that you do listen to music and are a music fan.
Yeah, I listen a lot, electronics, trance music, deep house, and then sometimes I hard style when I need to work out. It's
Nice.
more like harder types of music. Yeah, I do enjoy a lot of electronics music. In fact, like before, during high school and in university, I actually like produce a lot of like electronic music for fun. And I like the idea of like being able to create something using technology. In this case, like using like music software to like create music, and then it's like creation, like how do you approach an idea and inspiration to like eventually building something that's shared with the world.
That overlap again. Wow. That's really cool. Is any of your stuff online? Can we still listen to the stuff you were making when you were in university?
Yeah, sure, it's on SoundCloud. It's also on, I think, like Mixcloud. Yeah,
Oh,
I abandoned those accounts for a long time because nowadays it's focused on tech and design,
right.
building products, solving problems.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Focus is important. Great. Okay. And finally, what are you most excited about in tech right now?
Yeah, I'm really excited about the future of like social networking. Um, in the overlap between like work life and also like being able to build a life, using social media. So passion economy is something that excites me, the most uh, going forward. And also like the future of work, I believe like the future will shift to remote and distributed, and there will be like more tools and apps making this like workflow and process more accessible for everyone and more productive. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's actually another good topic that you raised. That's we haven't yet covered is the remote work. I think if we were talking in our pre-chat about how HackerNoon is 100% distributed, and you've been living the remote dream for some time as well. How has been your experience? Of the journey that is remote work, and what are your strategies for staying productive, staying engaged, when it comes to being not only a solo founder but a lone ranger in the day to day?
Yeah, sure. So I work with like 12 to 15 hours time zones remotely. So I'm a big fan of like combining like synchronous and asynchronous communication. So things like when do you schedule for meetings, and when do you schedule for like documenting and brainstorming through like Google Docs and like Notion or Slack. So yeah, I think I'm a big fan of like asynchronous communication and being able to like put your thoughts on, sort of like digital documentation and share with your clients and their internal team, and being able to execute based on, what's being shared, have everything in one place so that everyone is, it's well informed on what's going on, what status of the project, what is the progress of the execution so far. So yeah, there's one thing that I would, like share about, being able to work, remotely and productively is write things down, write a lot, and then spend a little bit more time on reading, and always like plan ahead or think ahead when you are, before you like drop the next email or, send the next, Slack message. Because that's just to make everything more refined, and your communication will flow better for everyone.
Particularly with briefing, right? Being intentional, really thinking about it. Similar experiences for me in that regard. Great advice. Well, thank you so much for joining us. It's been great to hear your thoughts on process and creativity and how to be a prolific builder and maker and writer. I really appreciate having you with us. I'm so glad that you're involved in the Noonies Yeah, is there anything else that you'd like to share with the HackerNoon listeners?
Yeah, thanks for this opportunity. I think it's been huge, and I think for everyone out there who wants to get into products, I think the best way to get started is to start building things for yourself and keep building and keep launching. It's an amazing journey.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.